Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Our talk today is on bioenergy healing, and the theme of this evening is the secrets of anti-aging. So I thought you might like that as a topic. I see all the thumbs up. Where to begin? I mean, this is our last talk of the year, so we're going to make it a good one. And I really want to talk about energy and then how that influences aging, and we'll bring the aging in at the very end. So stay on till the end to get the good secrets, to get the good tips. But the first part is I'm Michael Dalton. I've been doing bioenergy healing for 30 years. This is my 30th year doing bioenergy healing. And, I've seen a lot of people, like tens of thousands of people come into the clinics over the years for sessions, thousands and thousands of people for training. And you get an understanding of what keeps people healthy, what gets people sick, why some people look a lot older than they are, and why other people look younger than what they are. I often think too, if we can wind back the clock a bit so that whether it's 10 years or 15 years younger, not only do we look and feel younger, but a lot of the ailments go away. Like if you can wind back a bit, you can remove a lot of illness, a lot of sickness that doesn't need to be there. At the same time, we're going to talk about aging, but there's also no cure for death. Right? We're all dying. Sorry about that, folks. But there's no cure for death. But I don't think the problem is that we die. I think it's sometimes that we don't fully live. And so it's like, while we're here, how do we improve the quality of our life? How do we Guinness says hello from Turkey. Oh, thank you. Sorry, just let me add a few more people in here. Yeah, so it's not, like I said, it's not that we die, we're all going to die, but it's how do we live and the quality of life that we live. So it's definitely, I would say, a better quality of life when you're living healthy, when you're well, right, than when you're sick. I mean, regardless of financial situation, romantic situations, all of those things, there's a reason why people say your health is your wealth, because when you're healthy, the quality of your life goes up a lot more, and when we're sick, the quality of our life goes down. And so I'd like to take tonight's talk to kind of unravel that a little bit. And also the idea of the talks is really to help inspire you to your beingness, right? To the present moment, to the full acceptance and self-worth of who you are. And I think, in many ways, when we come away from who we are and what we are and the authenticity of that, I call it coming out of alignment. And the more we move out of alignment, kind of like a pendulum, we lose that sense of self, and then that can lead to the body breaking down. But let me start by giving you a crash course in energy. So like we hear these statements, everything is energy, everything is like energy, frequency, and vibration. So we hear these things, but it's often more of like a background noise. It's not so much like in the forefront of our minds or in the forefront of the education system. It's more of a something back there. Everything is energy, frequency, vibration. And the main kind of like education system kind of pushes more to, you've got, this is your physical body, this is your life, achieve and accolades and get your work done, and there's a lot of focus on the physical, and in some ways in a good way, but in other ways it can take away from our spirit, our connection to who we are and what we are. So this, like crash course in energy, I would say, is first understanding that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and bringing that back to the forefront of our consciousness. You are energy. You are energy. You're basically energy. You're made up of energy. You are energy. You have an amazing ability to heal yourself, right? You have an amazing ability to heal yourself. And that's something as well that's gone to the kind of like the background noise. Like, it's something we know of, we've heard it, but it's like, is it something we've really learned and educated ourselves in and integrated it into our body, our mind, and our spirit? And I think not. Not when I see people's health, that there isn't an integration of that. We're energy. We're these powerful energy beings, feckin' light beings, right? We're full fractal Christ consciousness light beings in a physical body. We're a non-local event expressing it. We're all of this massive energy concentrated, all the way down into a local event, into the physical body, giving ourselves expression through this physical body. And so we're like, in many ways, we're so much more than what we've been led to believe. We're much more powerful than we think ourselves. We're much more powerful than we've been educated in, or than we've been led to believe, or than we understand about ourselves. So as part of that, we have these 7 main chakras of the body, which are energy points of the body, and we have these auras that are out around the body. And because we're energy, not only do we have physical organs, tissue, cells, blood, and bones, but we also have an energetic body made up of chakras that take the energy and condense it and bring it through the 7 major glands of the body and brings it into the physical form, into physical manifestation as this local event in this time and space. But we're so much more than that. We're so much more than this local event in this time and space. We're just pure broadcasting energy. We're both broadcasters and we're receivers. And so we're always broadcasting and receiving information all the time. In the same way that if you have a TV and you turn on a channel, the channel is picking up a broadcast, right? So there's a broadcast coming through your TV, and you have maybe you're watching a movie or a soap opera, right? And that's a broadcast that's coming through. But there's more than one broadcast, right? So even though you're watching one station, you also know that there are other stations. And those other stations are being broadcasted through as well. And when you switch from one channel to another channel, you get a different broadcast, or you get a different movie, or the news, whatever it is coming through your TV. So, if you've got the news on, the news tends to be very sympathetic nervous system, right? It tends to be very fear. Some people call it the fear porn, right? Like, the news tends to put you in the state of anxiety, and fear and anxiety, right? So at the same time, when you switch channels, that news is still broadcasting, but there's some people that just don't tune into the news. They just don't watch it. They're just like, won't tune into that frequency. So here we now have, we're these powerful energy beings with we're broadcasting energy out, and we're also receiving energy. And we receive energy because literally every cell in your body, and there's roughly between 50 and 70 trillion cells in your body, and each one of your cells has receptors on the surface of the cells, and those receptors are receiving information. And at the same time, your cells are also antennas, so they're also broadcasting information. So your mind, your consciousness, when we think, we create electrical charges in the body, and we broadcast electrical energy out around the body. When we feel, we broadcast emotional energy. And so the feeling is the magnetism. So whereas the thoughts is broadcasting the electrical aura of the body, the feelings are broadcasting the magnetic aura of the body. And so we're not just physical beings, we're also very much electrical beings. Even the cells of your body have roughly 1.17 microvolts of electrical potential. So we're pure electricity, you know. And so our cells are broadcasting electrically, and we're broadcasting ourselves out to everyone else in the universe, and then everyone else is broadcasting to us, and we have this collective mind, you know. And so when we feel like in alignment with our true nature, with our true broadcast, when we're in that alignment, we tend to like our vibration goes up. Right? So when our broadcast is in alignment with who we are and what we are, our vibration increases, our broadcast gets louder, you know. And I often think like, well, what is that alignment? That alignment, I come to see over 30 years of working with people, is that broadcast, that alignment is authenticity. When we're in our authentic selves, being ourselves, we're in alignment with this flow of energy that moves and circulates through the chakra system, that feeds all the organs, the tissues, the cells, the blood, the bones, with vital life force energy to keep you alive and keep you feeling renewed and replenished and energized, you know. But when we feel out of alignment, our vibration goes down. When we get stuck, or we loop on fear or guilt or shame or blame or you know, all the good things, right? There's lots of stuff, you know, the stuff, right? There's lots of stuff out there to take us out of our alignment. And as we go further and further out of our alignment, kind of like a pendulum, the more we go out of alignment, we lower our vibrational energy. We lower our vibrational frequency. And I think this is really important, because once we realize that everything is energy and we're energy, it's really important whether our vibration is going up or our vibration is going down, or where our vibration is sitting at. Because one of the things that I found through working with people is that when our vibration feels low, we're like a crap magnet, you know. We're attracting all of the challenges, all the difficulties into our lives. So it's like, because vibrations kind of attract each other, right? So when our vibration goes down into fear, we'll attract lots of fearful events into our life. When our vibration goes up, and you may have noticed this, like when you feel really good shit happens you, right? Like good things happen when you're feeling in that high vibration. I mean, there's always like conditioning and programming where some people can only allow themselves to have so much good stuff, right? Like have you ever felt like you're feeling really good and then you're waiting for something bad to happen, right? You're like, your quota, your good quota can only go so high, or you can only maintain it for so long, and then the collective mind kind of pulls you back down again. It's like keeping you in that frequency. So I think it's like for most people, and in the way our education system and everything is, people don't learn about their energy system. They don't learn how to manage their energy. They don't learn what their energy is, what vibration and frequency is. There's more of like, there tends to be a bit more of like an external focus, right, in life, that external focus, like more of a chasing, right? We're chasing for something, we're trying to get something or get to something. You know, some people say, well, we're always bypassing the present moment. You know, I often think like when people are suffering with depression, there's a tendency where they're really caught up with the past. And when people are suffering with anxiety, there's a tendency that they're really caught up with the future. You know, they're anxious about, you know, maybe the things that will never happen, but they're still anxious about future potentials, right? And so whenever we're in the past or whenever we're in the future, if we're too far back or too far forward, we're pulling ourselves out of that alignment. We're pulling ourselves out of that present moment. We're disconnecting ourselves, you know. And so one of the things about, like, you know, having a healing practice and working with healing is that bioenergy healing is using a series of hand movements to work into the bioelectromagnetic field and clear blockages out of the energy field. And these blockages that can accumulate in the energy field can be from conditioning, from programming, from stress, from specific events that may have taken place in your life, right up to like different traumas that people can experience. They can cause blockages in the bioelectromagnetic field. And left untreated or not addressed, those blockages tend to accumulate stress in the area that the blockages are in. And then the stress feeds more blockages, and then the blockages feed more stress. And people end up in this looping cycle of stress leading to eventually to illness and sickness. And so I always look at, well, you know, what do we have to do to stay healthy? And indeed, if you're sick, what can you do to turn your health around? And I was very fortunate. I was suffering with asthma and eczema, and I came across this treatment, bioenergy healing, and this is more than 30 years ago now. And when I first saw it, I thought it was crazy, people waving their hands doing energy healing. But my asthma and eczema went away in 4 days, in 4 treatments. And I was blown away by that, because I was like, how can someone working with energy clear away like physical eczema that was on my hands, and asthma where I needed inhalers for the asthma? I'd been using inhalers for years, but they hadn't gotten rid of the asthma. They just kind of suppressed the symptoms a bit, and, you know, but the symptoms still kind of pushed their way through. And so here was like this world of energy healing opened up to me, where receiving energy healing, the asthma disappeared, the eczema disappeared. And I was like, what is this energy? What the hell is this all about? Because that's not the norm. At least it's not how we're educated. We're not told, you know, if you get sick or ill, go and have some bioenergy healing sessions. That's not necessarily what people hear, right? It's like, you know, it's to the pharmaceuticals, right? And you know, and maybe there can be wonderful doctors and nurses and doing wonderful work, but the system of pharmaceuticals, the system is more of a repeat system of you keep going back and you keep having pharmaceuticals. And that doesn't really create the model of health. Not really, when you think about it. It's the system will go out of business if people got better. So it's not necessarily designed to get people better. So where is the design for people to be well? Well, I think that design is part of who we are and what we are, which is energy. We came in with that energy. We're born with that energy. There's a free energy that moves and flows and circulates through us. And I guess just like any free energy, that technology, that information gets suppressed, right? Because there's no profit for that in big corporations, right? So there, it's out there, boom, you know. But at the same time, here we are as these energy beings with a physical body, with an emotional body, with a mental body, with a spiritual body, or maybe the spiritual body is the emotional, the mental, and the physical. Maybe it's all the things together. Maybe that's what holistic health is. Maybe that's what's meant by holistic, right? And in so many ways, if we're only treating the physical and we're not getting to the cause, we're really just treating the effect. And if we're only treating the effects and we're only treating the chemical system, we're going to keep getting the same problems. We start to loop into the same problems over and over. And not only that, but you know, when we're sick, if we continue to have that sickness, it unfortunately can lead to other sickness and other ailments, because things kind of like a traffic jam, the longer it's there, the further it backs up, you know. So when I say I was fortunate to come across bioenergy healing, I think it's because I began to understand that your body is just pure energy. It's pure, unadulterated energy. It's just like pure bliss, pure energy, pure vibrancy. And it's this natural free energy that moves and circulates and resonates through every cell of our being. It's broadcasting through us literally all the time. And there's a good example of this, even in the sense of like, say something like multiple personalities, where a person can have more than one personality. A person could be a diabetic in one personality and not be a diabetic in another personality. And that's crazy when you think about it, that in a fraction of a moment, as they switch personalities, they're a diabetic in one and they're not in another. The broadcast of energy that's moving and circulating through their system instantly rewires itself. In one moment, it wires the person's chemistry to be a diabetic, and in another moment, it wires their chemistry that they're not a diabetic. But it goes so much further than that. Not only like with ailments, even with allergies. They could have an allergy to peanuts in one personality and not have that allergy in another personality. They could have scars in one personality, and when they change personality, you guess what's coming, right? Their scars can disappear, right? And then they change back personality and the scars can reappear. And not only, like, as crazy as that sounds, not only can that happen, but what can happen is their eye color can change. And that's really significant because your eye color is genetic. It's not supposed to change, you know. And when people shift personality, they can change their eye color. So I'm not saying that you need to change your personality in order to become healthy, but it helps. But I think in some ways, you know, we can be living in a certain way that is a vibrational frequency, that is, we're broadcasting on a certain station, we're tuned into a certain frequency, we see ourselves a certain way, we have a certain mental attitude about who we are and what our limitations are. And I mean, isn't it true that people love to tell us what we can't do? Right? Have you ever said to people like, I'm going to do this, and people love to tell you what you can't do, right? Like, we're so conditioned for limitations. It's kind of more rare that people say, that's a great idea, go and do that. You know, most people would be like, you know, oh, you wouldn't be able to do that, you know, like that can't be done. So we tend to get conditioned and programmed away from our natural intuition and away from our natural guidance of our alignment, our inner wisdom, our inner intuition, our inner life force that is, excuse me, broadcasting through us and looking to express itself, looking to vibrate into our lives. And we kind of get conditioned over, there's a good name for it. It's called the hypnosis of social conditioning, right? So like the hypnosis of social conditioning is like we get conditioned into what we can do and what we can't do, and we reinforce those ideas and those thoughts, which become beliefs. And those beliefs can act like cement, where we get stuck in our beliefs. And sometimes we don't even know what our beliefs are. They can be unconscious. And those unconscious beliefs, as crazy as it sounds, can be driving 90% of your life force. So as your life force comes into your body, the unconscious mind can be controlling up to 90% of that life force and redirecting it into the same old body, the same old cells, the same old way of being. But a shift in consciousness, like I said, not that you need to change personality, but sometimes we need to shift our thinking. We need to shift our feeling. We need to get out of our own way. I often say, as much as like other people can put their stuff on us, there's no one in our way more than ourselves. We are our own worst enemy, right? But there's also a beautiful solution to that. What happens when I stop fighting with the things that I think are fighting with me? Boom, right? What happens when I get out of my own way? What happens when the 90%, the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind, the 10%, what happens when they start working together? Where does that 100% of the energy go? What happens when your energy comes into alignment? Sorry, just checking there. Okay. So what happens when your energy comes into alignment? One of the things that I always try to share with healing, because there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to healing. Like, I often hear people say, well, people need to heal themselves. Like, you can't have someone else healing you, right? Like, you need to heal yourself. And all those things are true, but there's sometimes a misunderstanding with it. A healer is not healing you, right? It's always you that's healing yourself. So what does a healer do? A healer is helping you get out of your own way. That's what the healer is doing. They're helping you get your own blocks out of the way. Because really, it's the mental and the emotional blocks that have built up inside of you, that they're what's changing your vibrational frequency away from health and well-being. So it's like, I'm just going to use a pendulum as an example here. So here we have my pendulum. So the pendulum hangs right by itself, and I can push it, or I can pull it, right? And sometimes that's like us in life. We get pushed into things that we don't want to do, or we get pulled. Sometimes we feel pulled by things, or we feel pushed, or we feel pulled. But really, healing is when we've let go, and we're like, you don't have to make healing. Like, it's already there. That's what alignment is. When people say, like, because a lot of times I find in courses, people say, when you really ask people, when you really get down to the brass nuts, like, what do people want, like, deeply? And people often say connection. People want more connection, right? Does that make sense? Does that sound like, a potential thing, right? People want connection. And well, what is that connection? Well, I've come to understand and believe that any connection that we think that we're having with other people is really based on the connection that we have with ourselves, or based on the connection that we have with our source energy, right? If we're not connected to our source energy, if we're not connected to ourselves, then it's very hard for us to connect to other people, because other people are a reflection of our energy. They're a vibrational match to what we're expressing, right? So like a mirror, they're reflecting our consciousness back to us. And in the same way, like, you know, I always say too, like, it's all vibrational, right? So in the same way, like bitter people find each other, right? Positive people find each other, blamers find each other, critical thinkers find each other, light beings find each other. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right? You've heard that statement many times, but it's very true, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe. And if you're like, well, I don't have any tribe, yeah, you then probably you also don't have a connection to yourself, right? Because if you're not attracting similar vibrational frequencies to you, if you're disconnected, maybe that is the attraction. You're in a holding space with other people that are disconnected, and the view of the world is everybody's disconnected. But when you're in vibrational harmony with yourself, you start to attract and vibrate with other people who are also in vibrational harmony with themselves. Does that make sense? Right? So when we say your vibe attracts your tribe, like I often used to say, like, I'd be treating someone with chronic fatigue, and I've treated a lot of people with chronic fatigue over the years, and that's where people might have these aches and pains all over their body. They have very low energy. It's not that they don't have energy, it's just that the energy is not circulating and moving, and their energy levels is really fatigued. Their nervous system has gone into more like a sympathetic fatigue, right? And so, or adrenal fatigue, you could say. And so I'd often find, like, people with chronic fatigue, they'd be members of chronic fatigue societies. And I'd be thinking, that's the last thing you want to do. I know you want help and support, but you do not want help and support from other people in low energy, low frequency, full of aches and pains, right? Because if you have a group of those people together and you've got a membership, sorry, but it's like, if you understand that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and you've got that chronic, you need to change channels. You not stay on the same channel. And that's what I found is, like, with illness and sickness, a person could, they start out getting sick for a year, and then unfortunately that could turn into 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. And I've seen where you could take someone who's been sick for 30 years, and within a couple of sessions, I've seen people return to full health and well-being. And that blows my mind. Like, I'd be the first one to say that blows my mind. How can we go from, like, being one way for years and years and years to suddenly being a different way? How is that even possible? And the answer is, like, I don't know, but, like, if you went into, like, we'll just say your parents' house, and they had, like, the TV on, and maybe, like, your parents are older, and there's just one TV station that they want to watch, and it's the TV is always on that one station, and you go in and you turn the station, right? You put something else on. I guarantee you, every time you go back into that house, the channel has been turned back to the old station. Isn't that true? Right? Because we get familiar, we get conditioned and programmed into following the same pathways over and over. So what I find is, like, there's a certain trajectory that we're on. If we unfortunately get sick and we stay on the same trajectory, well, it makes sense that we're going to continue, over time, to continue to block up and get worse. We need to do something different than what we've been doing. We need to change the station. We need to change the caste. We need to change the tribe, right? Whatever it might be. But we need to change the vibrational frequency, the broadcast that the cells of the body are receiving. And like I say, this isn't something that, you know, when you're taking medication, when you're taking pills, when you're taking pharmaceuticals, when you're going to the chiropractor or the osteopath or the acupuncturist or the massage or the physio, you know, they're not talking about your energy and your frequency and your vibration, right? Like when you go to the doctor, they're not talking about your energy and your frequency and your vibration. It's more of a, like I said, a background noise. It's something that everybody knows of. Oh yeah, by the way, every cell in your body is empty space, and that empty space is pure energy, right? And that pure energy, not an emptiness of nothing. You can take the cells of the body, put them under an electron microscope, and they're simple. It's space, it's energy and space and information. And you know, oh yeah, by the way, your whole body is energy. That's not the conversations that come in. But once we start having that conversation where we're like, hey, hold on a moment. If everything is energy, your thoughts are energy, your feelings are energy, your emotions are energy, your physical body is energy, the table, the computer, if everything is energy, why am I going back to the energy to fix it? Because that's the source code. If that's the code that creates, then that's the code that has to be corrected, you know. And so that's where when I think of like turning back the clock, right? Like how do we turn back the clock? How do we get out of illness and sickness? Even if you've been going down a path, like I said, you've been going down a path for 30 years. It doesn't matter if your parents have been watching the same TV station, you know, for 30 years. The potential is there to change stations. It's always there. There's a broadcast of health and well-being that is always available to you because it's your natural alignment. Like in the same way, folks, look, it doesn't matter how long I've held that pendulum off course. It doesn't matter how long I've kept it off course. If I've got the capacity to let it go, the pendulum will find its own alignment. It will come back to its own center. And I think that is the most beautiful and magical thing to understand. That is your golden nugget tonight. Do you like golden nuggets? Not to be confused with chicken nuggets. Equally good, unless you're vegan. But golden nuggets is like something that you realize. It comes into realization. It's not something you learn, right? I think when you have that aha moment, the reason it feels like, oh yes, it's because you already know it. It's just that you've forgotten it. But it's deep in your cellular being is we know that we're energy. We know that we're full fractal Christ consciousness, light beings, non-local events. We know that we're those things, but life has a tendency to beat us down. Life, and that's why sometimes there's like a stress that gets created in us, because we know that we're so much more than what we're expressing. We know that we're pure creativity. And when we're not getting to express that creativity, then like one of the chakras as an example, the throat chakra closes down when you don't get to speak your truth. It closes down when you don't get to communicate and be heard. When you don't get to speak from your alignment. If you're telling people what they want to hear, if you're telling people, if you're saying yes all the time when you mean no, right? If you're if you're speaking from a place of inauthenticity, you're pulling yourself out of alignment. And you might feel, well, it's other people are pulling me out of it. And yeah, and that can be true. But at the end of the day, it's ourselves that keep us out of alignment. It's ourselves that keep turning back to the old station. Even when someone shows us a new station, even when someone like helps us change the station, it's ourselves that go back to the old way of being until we don't. Until we get a moment to realize, as we come back to those moments where our energy starts to flow and move and circulate, and we begin to realize this feels good. This is how it's supposed to be. We're, you know, it's so funny when I had the asthma and eczema before I had the bioenergy, I always knew deep in my heart and deep in my soul, I knew I was supposed to be healthy. That I don't know how to say it other than that. I knew I'm supposed to be healthy. I'm not supposed to be sick. It wasn't something that I learned. It was something that was inside me. It was a knowing, a direct knowing that health is the body's natural state. That our capacity to be healthy is always there. And even though I went through the medical route, I did everything I was told to do, and I didn't get better. I went to specialists. I went to a specialist after 2 years waiting to see a specialist for the eczema. 2 years waiting to see the specialist said to me, "You have eczema." And I was like, well, I know I have eczema. That's why I'm here. And there wasn't a talk of like getting better. The specialist, well, you'll just take these creams. And I'm like, I've taken those creams. It doesn't work. And I was really like frustrated at the time when I realized the specialist wasn't going to help me get better. But I didn't give up hope, because something inside of me knew that I was supposed to be healthy and well. And when I came across the bioenergy, and I came across, like I said, this energy healing, and even though I thought it was strange and people talking about energy, there was something that resonated, you know. I won't say it was my tribe at the very beginning, certainly not. It was kind of, it was out there for me. It was, I mean, this is more than 30 years ago in Ireland. It was like witchcraft, right? Like it was, you know, nowadays everybody has done a Reiki course. They've watched the movie The Secret. Like everybody knows about energy, right? Like you're familiar with it. Everything is energy is not a foreign statement to you, right? Like, you know, at least you know of it. But it was like, it was out there for me because like I had studied as a mechanical engineer. It was a very different mindset than, hey, by the way, your whole body is energy, and your body changes with your thoughts, and the words that you speak are spells that manifest and create in your life. That wasn't something I was educated in. But there was something about when I saw the people doing bioenergy and the movements and the flow of energy, it kind of looked like Tai Chi. There was something very soothing about it. There was something very natural about it. It wasn't pushed or it wasn't forced, right? It wasn't like, you know, you have to do it. It was just, it was natural. It was just like, it was like, the best way I can describe it now, it was the heart chakra. It was love. It was like I was seeing love through healing, like love through energy, love expressed as movement, as expression, as creativity. That, you know, feeling blockages moving out of the way and new energy flowing in. It was like a genesis, the restoration of life, the rise of the phoenix, you know, from illness and sickness to health and well-being. It was a renewal. And you know, so that led me down that path to want to know more, to want to learn healing. And there was something inside me. There was a knowing, and this also sounds crazy. there was a knowing inside me that I would do this for the rest of my life, that I would leave engineering and I would do this for the rest of my life. And like, where does that knowing come from? You know, I think it's like, I think we all have a deep, powerful intuition that we've disconnected ourselves from, or we've disconnected from, or we haven't learned how to tap in or use it. But I think that as human beings, we're incredibly intuitive, incredibly psychic, and it all gets mumbo jumboed, and we get mixed up with fear and guilt and shame and blame, and we shut the system down. But when the system is open up, when the system is flowing, the communication starts to circulate. Not a communication from the self, right? That's the ego. That's generally a lot of the communication within ourself. When you really think about it, a lot of our self-communication is from our wounds. It's from our pain body, right? And when we blame other people for the shit that they do, it's usually coming from our pain body, right? Like, it's a projection, right? Because we said everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror, a reflection of our consciousness. So this projection onto other people is other people reflect our vibration back to us. You know, so generally what we're blaming others for, one could say we might be guilty of it ourselves, but it's in the shadow self. It's suppressed down into the pain body, and it comes out as our words or our negative thoughts, or it comes out as feelings of fear or guilt or shame or blame or frustration, in the same way that, you know, somebody can just get angry at something, like an unprecedented amount of anger for the situation that occurred. Well, that's not coming from that situation. That's coming from another time. It's coming from another space, right? Whew, that was a big mouthful. Sorry, I just take a sip of water. So if we're thinking from a place of anxiety, I think, like, if we're anxious about the future, it steals us away from the present moment, you know. So when our vibration drops down, we're in these lower vibrations, it's we tend to like live more from the pain body. We tend to live more in that anxiety state. And one of the things about the lower three chakras is they're unconscious. So people don't even know when they're living in them, right? It's the heart chakra and above is where the conscious chakras start to open up. So when we're living from the unconscious places, when we're living from our wounds, we tend, you know, you may know, of course, you can know that you have wounds, but not know how to let them go. So, you know, there can be, we call that semi-conscious, right? You can be living from your wounds and not even know that they're your wounds. We would call that unconscious. When you know that you have wounds, but you don't know how to release them, or you don't know how to let them go, you don't know why they keep resurfacing, that's semi-conscious. It's in your, at least it's in your awareness. And then when consciousness is when we start to, when the unconscious becomes conscious, when we become fully realized, fully aware of the creative process of the thoughts and the feelings and the physical body, and they come into alignment. So when the energy comes into alignment, we're definitely more conscious about the words that we choose and the words that we speak, because they're creative, they're manifesting, they're creating a vibrational frequency that is both attracting or repelling or congesting and blocking up our energy field. Now, I wanted to kind of like as part of like giving a crash course on energy, I wanted to kind of like lead into aging and how this affects aging, because I think aging is a really interesting subject, you know. And the reason I think it's interesting is because you could have a really old 60-year-old, and you could have a really young 80-year-old, right? You could have an 80-year-old that's really young and vibrant, and you could have a 60-year-old that looks worn out and haggard, right? That is just defeated, right? And I don't think it so much has to do with like with what life throws at you. You know, a lot of people want to believe like, oh, it's my life circumstances, it's the culture, it's all of these things. I think for sure they all play a role. But what I've come to understand is that there's three ages that you have. You have three ages. And so the first age is your chronological age. And that is, you know, that's what's on your driving license or what's on your passport. It's your birth certificate, right? And generally it doesn't lie. I mean, you might lie on social media about your age, but generally your passport, your driving license, your birth certificate doesn't lie. It's how many years, how many seasons you have been weathered, right? It's you know, your chronological age is that generally goes by how long have you been here. And that's the first age that we have. And you know, it's significant, it's important, because we'll all ask each other, hey, what age are you? Or, you know, it's, you know, we tend to give it a lot of credibility, right? And so there's your chronological age. And like I said, you have your chronological age, but then the next age you have is your biological age. And that's important, because your biological age is how your physical body is aging. So how the cells of your body are going through the aging process, how the DNA is being affected, how basically how all of the physical systems, the blood, the bones, right down to the cells, what level of health are they in? And they can be measured, right? Like your biological age can be measured. So like your biological age is basically, that's going to determine your physical health, right? Like you know, we can talk about your emotional health and mental health and all those, but that first one, like your biological age will represent like often your physical health. Now, if you're 60 and you feel like 75, well, usually in that like 15-year gap or 15-year serious, a person's health can go down a lot in 15 years, right? Like from being in a certain level of health, your health can change significantly over a 15-year period, of course, right? And we tend to have a lot of collective conditioning and programming as, you know, as we get older, we get more different ailments, different things. I even remember my auntie coming to me one day. Her name was Mary, and she said she went to the doctor because she was getting aches and pains in her body, and she said so she went to the doctor, and the doctor asked her what age she was, and she said 65. And the doctor says, well, you have arthritis. And she says, well, what can I do to get rid of it? And he says, well, you know, you're at that age now where, you know, you're at that age, you know. And my auntie, being this feisty redhead Irish woman, was like, it's not okay at any age to have arthritis. What do you mean? What do you mean it's okay? I'm at that age. And she came to see me, and we did a couple of sessions, and within a couple of sessions, all her aches and pains and arthritis was gone. And I was really proud of her, because so many people would take that spell, that comment, you're at that age, and they would just accept it. They would just like, oh, okay, you know, here you can take these meds, here this will reduce some of the side of the effects, you know. But so many times we just accept the conditions that are put upon us. And every now and again, someone says, no, I won't accept these conditions. There's more to it than that. It's not just physical. There's more to it. And that's what I loved, was like that, you know, it was great to be able to help her, but also that she was even open to just not accepting that and being open. And then, you know, I'd been in this world of energy, and then she opened up into this world of energy and received that healing. And I think, like, when it comes back to this aging process, so we have this chronological age, and then we have this biological age. So how is your body aging? And I think that the link between your biological age and your chronological age, you know, obviously there's a connection between the two of them. And that connection between the two of them, here's the part that I really want to share. It's not as significant as you've been led to believe that it is. It's not as important as you think that it is. That it's like, ideally, it's okay if your chronological age and your biological age are the same age. You definitely don't want it older. You don't want to feel older than what you are, right? Because that brings more illness or ill health, and we want a better quality of life. So that's not necessarily something that we want. But I love one of the great teachers I started out with when I first learned healing and was wanting to learn about how the body regenerates, was Deepak Chopra. And one of the things that Deepak Chopra found in his studies was that people can go backwards or forwards by up to 15 years on average. So you could have your chronological age as a certain age, but your biological age could measure more than 15 years younger. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. That's really exciting. And I see that in my clinics. But here is your next golden nugget. There's a third age, right? So we got your chronological age, we got your biological age, and here's the one that has the biggest impact on your biological age. Are you ready for it? Drum roll, right? It's your mental age. It's literally your mental age. And you know, what does that mean? Well, maybe it's self-explanatory. When you look at someone who is older and there's a vibrancy about them, it's like their mental age is different than their chronological age. Now, people don't like you to step outside the box, right? So we have these, like, in the collective mind, people will say stuff like, you know, act your age, you know, you're too old to be doing that, you know. I've seen people in their 70s say, look, after their healing, they get better. I say, you know, you should go on like an adventure. And this one woman was like, I'm going to go to Egypt. And her family's like, you can't go to Egypt in your 70s and go backpacking, you know, all of this. And it's like, when we let go of all that conditioning and programming, and we come back to that source code, when we renew ourselves back to alignment, that alignment is infinite, it is boundless, it is limitless, you know. Not that we're not going to die. I like I said, I don't think the problem is that we die. At least the physical body dies, the spirit never dies, you know. It's that we don't live. It's that we don't live in our presence, in this now moment, accessing our natural energy, accessing our natural creativity, and that power of being in our light that we have access to, you know, and we focus so much in the dark. Like there's so much, and I think it's important to do shadow work, and it's important to work on the parts of yourself that is wounded, absolutely. But I've always found the best way to illuminate is when you go into a dark room, turn the light on, right? It's a lot easier to find your way around. It's a lot easier to clean out the room with the lights on than trying to clean out the room when it's dark. So it's a lot easier to work in the shadow self, to work in the unconscious mind, when we have more awareness coming in, when we flood it with light, when we become aware of the energy, when we open up to the energy, when we find out where the energy is flowing, blocked, circulating, and we turn on that flow and that circulation, that movement of energy, it's a lot easier to work in the light, I'm going to say, than it is to work in the dark. That's why people are called light workers, right? Because we work in the light. You know, sometimes they get a bad rap, usually from the shadow workers. You're not doing enough shadow work. Yeah, we're just doing it in the light, you know. Anyway, that's another story. But in terms of the mental age, right? So, you know, one of the things that I found through like helping to bring people in and teach them about their energy system and teach them about their chakra system and teach them about how your body can heal itself and how we're just pure potential and energy, in educating people, you know, we'll say educate rather than medicate, you know, but in educating people back to you are pure potential, you're pure energy, in remembering that and returning to that, as we start to educate ourselves back to, like, I don't think I'm teaching people anything new. I'm just helping get all the conditioning and programming and all the crap out of the way, and who you are is simply there. No one needs to tell you who you are. We're just helping you get out of your own way, right? And so that's really, thank you. Paula posted a link there to the side. It's a link tree to my events that I have. And so the courses and things that I offer, sessions that I offer, I do in-person sessions in Vancouver, Canada, or online sessions through Zoom. Or I do level 1 bioenergy training, which is to teach people how to do bioenergy healing for themselves, their family, their friends. Level 2 bioenergy training is an online course starting in January. And that is 18 classes, and it's teaching people how to be a practitioner, how to work with other people, how to go through your own journey through the chakra system, unblocking and unclogging the energy system. And so as we maneuver, like I said, the work that I've been doing is, people often say to me, they feel like they're getting younger. It's like they're winding back the clock. They're de-aging, you know. And I think it's like we age ourselves unnecessarily. We take life way too seriously, folks. And so as we start to like free up our energy, free up the wounds, free up the flow and movement of energy in our body, as that energy starts to circulate better, our body tends to start working better. The systems of the body start coming online. In the same way, it's like trying to send an email and you don't have any Wi-Fi. It's very hard for things to work, right? When you're not connected. And so there's another form of internet, and it's called the internet. And it's the interconnected web that interconnects us to our energy, into our source code. And so when I'm working with people often say, like, it feels like you've cleared away 10 years. People will often talk about it in years. It feels like you've cleared away 10 years of stuff. You know, someone else has said to me, a woman who did, like, she just did one level of training, one weekend, the level 1 bioenergy weekend. And she said, like, Michael, she said, I'd been telling this story of someone who had like arthritis for 45 years and got better. And she said, I have to tell you, I know you think that's the longest you treated someone who was ill, the longest like illness that you've treated. But she said, I had anxiety for 68 years. And after one weekend of training, your level 1 workshop, my anxiety is gone. I'm like a different person. I'm thinking from a new place. I'm feeling from a new place. Remember I said like anxiety, it's like when we come out of the future and we return to the present, when those blockages are released. Now, you can say, well, I'm going to do it myself. You know, sometimes 68 years go by while you're still trying to do it yourself. You know, you can have other people help you, but if you're not accessing the right code, if you're not making the right connection and clearing the energy from where it's blocked, it doesn't matter how much work you're doing. Like people often say to me, I'm doing so much healing. I've been doing healing for 10 years. I'm like, well, you couldn't possibly be doing healing for 10 years because healing works. So if you're doing it for 10 years, you're doing something else. You're not doing healing, you know? So people convince themselves that, you know, they're connected, but that like to a logical thinking person, that's not connected. You're still in your disconnect. So when we get back into our connection, back into our source code, back into alignment, the body heals itself, and it does it fast. It does it really fast. And sometimes we're just doing the work to get out of our own way. We're doing the work. And for healers, we're doing the work to help other people get out of their own way, to re-educate us on how powerful we are and what we're capable of. And so really that's the work that I offer. If it excites you, if it sounds like something that resonates, you know, I invite you to check it out. I invite you to check my links, and I have a group healing coming up next week. I think it's December 14th. That's a Thursday. And a beautiful group healing, an hour healing session. And if you want to kind of like experience the energy, even if we're not in person doing healing, you can still experience healing in the same way that you experience Wi-Fi, even if your phone is not plugged into something, you can still get the signal, you can still get the connection. And so with healing, you can still get the connection, whether we're together or not together. You know, so yeah, I invite you to check it out. I'm going to stop recording, but if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for checking out my work. I'd love to work with you if you want to check out the links. And like I said, I have a level 1 workshop coming up in January, a level 2 coming up in January as well. We got a message from Karen, says she just did level 2. It was amazing and highly recommends it. Says very transformational. Thank you. And that was Karen tuned in from Australia, getting up very early in the morning to take the courses. There's no limits, you know. It's like when someone decides to do something, when it's important to you, you find a way to do it. When we don't do stuff, it's because it's not important to us. I think that your health is your wealth, right? Like we can go through life, you know, destroying our health, chasing wealth, only to get wealth to spend it on trying to recover your health, you know, versus we can just take care of our health now, right? It's, you know, there's an old saying, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself, you know, from a man, he was like in his late 90s, you know, he's like, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care. I think that's a great statement, you know. But thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you soon in the future.